and welcome back to the Sideline Chat podcast. Now, we turn our focus to your Betfred Super League Week 13 debrief. Starting off at the Sewell Group Craven Park with Hull KR playing host to the Wigan Warriors.
This will actually be a juicy matchup. Hull KR are in pretty good form at the moment, and Wigan, well, as we now are the Wigan Warriors, and we all know what they are quite capable of. So this will be quite a very good one.
Now, of course, Hull KR steamrolled Batley in round 6 of the Challenge Cup, running out 50 points to nil winners over the Dogs, whilst Wigan had to do it the hard way, coming from 14-0 down to end up advancing to the quarterfinals 18-14.
That was a pretty close matchup, but Wigan in typical style fought tough and hard and come through with the honours to progress through.
It was a very close encounter for Wigan, but Bevan French, once again, just proving his worth as a Man of Steel contender and is important. I mean, he basically scored the first try of the second half within the first 30 seconds.
Exactly.
They got to their kickoff, Farrell found him back on the inside, and French just steams his way to the try line. An absolute resolute performance from Wigan to turn it around in the second half after Leeds, with probably the highlight of the day, Harry Newman's try in the first half.
Yeah, it was very...
You honestly thought that could have ended up as a knock-on, but he managed to juggle it, regain it, dummy French, and then he scored, was to put the Rhinos in front comfortably at the break.
And that's what the class of Harry Newman has been, he's getting better and better at. Yes, he's progressing, as we know, and you probably agree with me, he's developing better as a player. He's taking more control of the team and the likes of that. And stuff like that just shows that how much he has progressed over the last couple of years.
Yes, it is a remarkable progression in this case of Harry Newman. Just has to stay injury-free. That's just his big blow.
So far, so good, though.
Now, Hull KR, they had no troubles dispatching the Batley Bulldogs. They were able to keep a clean score sheet at Craven Park, which would have pleased Willie Peters immensely.
Well, it was really... I know it's a Challenge Cup and upsets can happen, but in all honesty, this was a no contest on the get-go. I mean, a Super League side up against a Championship side, there's kind of no hope for Batley whatsoever. To have 50 put on them, they would be disappointed about that, but and having no points on the board themselves, but they would have gone in thinking, I mean, we'll give it our best shot, but I don't like it. They'll try and think positive going into the game, but obviously it didn't quite work out for them at all.
No, it certainly did not, and it's not probably the way Craig Lingard, the current Batley Bulldogs coach, will have wanted to do his final Challenge Cup campaign before joining Castleford as an assistant coach in 2024 on a full-time basis. But nevertheless, Sean Kenny Dow was having an absolute field day.
He certainly was. How many tries did he score? 2? 1?
I think he scored a double at least. But just his ball play and his positioning under the Mike Lewis, his combination with Mikey Lewis on that left edge of the rock, and just setting it up. I mean, he was chasing kicks hard through on the chase, and then he backed it up. He helped set it up Kane Lynette for the first try, and then he scored a couple himself later on just too much overwhelming firepower at the highest level of British Rugby League, as you said.
Yeah. But Hull KR never looked troubled. They were pretty much smooth sailing from the get-go. No, barely any errors made. Just nothing really went against them, really. No. More went against Batley than anything. Which, as I said, is disappointing to see. But again, Championship versus Super League is just like another level.
Wigan, they did not leave that cup tie against the Rhinos unscathed. A triple injury blow for them. Ethan Havard, Willie Isa, and Kai Pearce-Paul all suffering injury in the loss in the case of Isa and Pearce-Paul. They didn't play in that cup tie victory against Leeds, but they are going to be out long term. We're talking between 1 and 2 months, respectively.
Oh, that's not good at all.
Meanwhile, Ethan Havard has dislocated his elbow and he's been sent for scans this week. But they did get good news with Cade Ellis earning from the treatment room in that cup tie victory. So we'll see how Wigan's back row forms up. Of course, the squad will get announced at lunchtime local time tomorrow, around about 12 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon. So we'll see what exactly is going through Matty Pete's mind. Of course, Liam Farrell on one side. Who is he going to name on the other side? Of course, still has the option of Cade Ellis that maybe could slot in on to an edge, and then a couple of rookie middle forwards. Patrick Mago maybe gets a start.
Maybe, but that's a risky take in the Challenge Cup too. If you play your full strength side, you're going to lose. Well, you could lose players to injuries, and this is what's happened with Wigan. But sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it isn't worth it.
Well, Robins, they seem to have gotten through the cup tie completely unscathed, yet no word on whether they'll get their full complement, including Lachlan Coote coming back in and Jordan Abdul. I'll be very curious to see how that will play out.
Pretty sure that they will get them back in this match against Wigan, but you never know what's going to happen.
I think Harry Smith... Oh, it was good news, for Ryan Hampshire coming back from injury. He's had a bit of a rotten run and making his second club debut for the Wigan Warriors. So I think that's a nice little side note to have for him there.
Yeah, he would have been happy with that. And what better way to do it with a win?
Yes, exactly. Now, Wigan and Hull KR are currently fighting it out for second on the table. There is only one try the difference between the two sides. So there is immense bragging rights awaiting both sides at Craven Park. The winner will go one win in front of the other and put pressure on Warrington for the League Leaders' Shield as we venture even closer towards the second half of the Super League campaign.
Or we could all end up having a draw and it could be status quo.
I don't think there's going to be a draw on here.
No,
Look,
but you never know though.
Very similar record between the two sides. Of course, in round one, Wigan rocked up to Craven Park and got trounced. And by the new look Hull KR side, I don't think we'll be expecting a repeat of this. Even with the understrength Warriors pack, I think the fact that Bevan French was able to carry Wigan to victory in the cup tie is enough in my mind to suggest that Wigan will try and keep pace with Warrington at the top of the Super League table. So I'm going to say the Warriors win this clash 1-6. I think there is a defensive grit that Hull KR will just struggle a little bit more to deal with.
Well, I'm going to say Hull KR will win this one. It's a flip of a coin of who this one's going to win. I mean, both teams are going very, very well in the Super League season so far, as you just mentioned. But I think Hull KR win this one 1-6 in a very close affair, and I think it'll be won in the last minute of the match.
Now, moving on to the first of the Saturday morning fixtures, not shown on the Sky Sports cameras. You're going to get a good chuckle out of this. It's the Catalan Dragons up against Wakefield Trinity.
One-way traffic.
Yes, of course, it was one-way traffic for Wakefield as they went down to the Lee Leopards, 40 points to 12 in their tie, whilst Catalan valiant but going down to Warrington, 16 points to 14 in their tie.
That was a very competitive match, though. Catalans and Warrington, but I mean, Warrington have just been a little bit better all season long in the Super League, so that's pretty much what paid off in this one. Just the consistency that they've been in.
It was good news for Matt Duffy to re-earn his place in the starting side for Darryl Powell after getting benched for Josh Fulis at fullback and then bringing the likes of either Greg Minikin or Matty Russell in onto the right wing in place. But I think having Duffy start again, it paid dividends instantly when he sliced through off a George Williams pass to score the opening try for the Wire. Their right edge was just free running for a large portion of that game.
That combination of Williams and Duffy, it's just been excellent this season.
And of course, you have to factor in Catalan really starting to get back to some troops. Of course, Mike McMeekin playing a little bit of edge. Sam Tompkins in the halves to accommodate Artur Moore.
Well, at least they didn't have any bulls to run away from this time. So
no. Oh, the threat of Stampede was reduced to 0 this time, which is, I think the locals would have been very happy of the case. And look, they were very close to winning it. Tua Morg really put himself out there. Some of the passes that led at the tries. First for Romano in the first half, and then Tom Johnston going over in the corner again. This bloke, who used to play for Wakefield, mind you, always getting injured. Suddenly he plays, close to 12, 13 matches so far this year, and he's amongst the league's top try scorers.
Yep.
Just because he changed clubs. It's absolutely...
It makes a difference, though. Like a club that's shit like Wakefield, and compared to a good club like Catlin, it makes a difference. And not only you wouldn't think it'd make much of a difference, but it actually does. It builds your confidence, it builds the team's confidence, and...
Or just to the fact he wasn't getting injured as much at this point during his career in Perpignan than he was at Bellevue, because he was pretty injury prone out at Wakefield.
God help him if he was playing at Bellevue this year.
Oh God, with that bloody hybrid pitch. Well, I didn't really trouble the Leopards that much, to be quite fair. Of course, Warrington, George Williams once again, and proving the difference as Matty Ashton bagged the double to win the game for the Warrington Wolves, advancing through to the quarterfinals. Wakefield did not offer anything to trouble the Leopards one little bit.
Which has been typical of Wakefield all season long.
Doubles to Tom Briscoe and Kai O'Donnell put the result pretty much beyond doubt that Lee were going to advance to the quarterfinal stages. I'll tell you what's going to happen first? The new stand at Wakefield gets built, or they're actually going to get a win? I mean, what happens first? Stand finish or Wakefield win a game?
Probably the stand getting finished first.
Because...
Or even before that, the coach goes bye-bye.
No, Applegarth is not going to get sacked, even though he has not won a league game all year, and he's lost a cup tie as well, which is diabolical in itself. This is now 13 straight games Wakefield have lost. The worst record in the league, and I don't know...
With 12 with the Super League and then 1 in a cup tie, yes.
Yeah, but they are now hurtling face first towards the worst start for any Super League club in recent history. They are staring down the barrel of going 0-14.
They're staring down the barrel going 0-27 or however many weeks there are.
They'll be lucky to even get one win. One win this year.
And we were bagging out the Tigers over here, and they've managed to get 3 wins now. But yeah, this is worse than that.
No, yeah, West Tigers are now in a much better position than what Wakefield are.
Oh, bloody
And
hell.
the fact that you got both Mason Lino and Max Jowett both committing their futures to the club, I mean, good on them, but how can you honestly confirm your future to the club when even the club's future is in doubt?
Exactly right. That is.
Because we know what's going to happen next. Wakefield, more than likely, at this point, are going to finish bottom of the table and get punted to the championship. Yep. That new 3,000-seat stand that would have been done by then?
Be nothing.
No, yeah, you're right. It'd be the flashiest stand in the Betfred Championship.
Pretty much.
And any player that doesn't want to play championship, they'll be looking for a way out.
Oh, bloody hell, they will be.
I mean, Lewis Murphy's already got his way out. Just unfortunate he had to do his ACL to do it before linking up with the Roosters.
Still yet to be confirmed from the Roosters.
George Tafua, I don't know what happens with him. I don't know how much longer he's got left in his playing career, to be quite fit. Yeah. Corey Hall, he's probably not going to return if that loan deal finishes off. I think the whole KR is hoping that's permanent. Then you got older heads, Jay Pitts, Lee Gaskell. What are they thinking at the moment? Are they going to move elsewhere? And then you got others as well, but it's bad times at Wakefield. And
hate to be a supporter of them at the moment, eh?
150 years, and this is probably the worst year on record for them.
Yep, good way to celebrate your centenary and a half, isn't it?
Yeah, Lee absolutely playing some brilliant eyes-up football. I mean, you look at that side that has been assembled. O'Donnell really getting the try scoring up and going. Ben Reynolds, a little bit underrated, playing alongside Lachlan Lamb, you'd have to say.
Yeah, just a little bit, but Lachlan Lamb, he's been pretty good this season. I mean, really, everyone had written off Lee Leopards this season, but they are absolutely turning heads. I believe they would
stay in Super League. I didn't think they'd actually be sitting inside the tops of 6 at the moment. I mean, they are 5th on the table.
At the moment, though, there's still
This is where
another.
Lee come into it. They are 7-5 on a 4-game winning run in the league. They are gunning for 5. We'll touch on that very shortly. Coming back into this game, heartbreaking loss for Steve McNamara to lose it right on the bell, and by 2. It always hurts when it's a narrow loss like that. But the fact that he's got Pierce back, he's got Tompkins there, McMeekin, Tauki-Aho. It's
Basically
a
a
very
full-strength
powerful
side.
Catalan side that they're running out with. And Tom Johnston has been amongst their best players by a country mile.
Oh, yeah, bloody oath he has been. And let's hope he keeps that up for the rest of the season.
But it's going to be another disaster for Wakefield. Even if they do rush Luke Gale in, they parachute him in to try and force a point of difference. It's not going to
One
work.
player ain't going to work, buddy.
Dead set. It will not work out in their favour. I think Catalan scorch Wakefield 21 plus, even if half the spine's out of form at the moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, Catalan's 3 plus. Wakefield will not show up whatsoever. The most of us probably forfeit.
Yeah, forfeit Super League. That's probably the only thing they can do at this
Well, what's
point.
the default score if you can't play? 40 something?
That was pandemic rules, remember?
Yeah, but if that pandemic rules are still going, well, was it 40 points?
48-0.
Well, there could possibly be that anyway, regardless. So, anyway, we'll wait and see. But yeah,
Dead set, I wouldn't doubt that they would probably put 6 or 8 tries on Wakefield in a row.
yeah, exactly,
I mean, look at everyone else that's put a score up against them.
exactly right.
Now, a battle of desperate Yorkshire sides. The Huddersfield Giants back at home to the Castleford Tigers. Huddersfield got involved in an absolutely crazy, stupid cup tie fixture. Going down to Salford, 42 points to 40. You read that here first. 42-40, they went down.
An 82-point thriller. My God. And seriously, Huddersfield was switched on in the last 10 minutes of the second half and the last 10 minutes of the first half. Other than that, Salford were in control, but then they slacked off that much. Huddersfield ended up coming back and nearly defeated them.
There were plenty of soft tries between both sides. Of course, King Vuniyawa probably shouldn't have scored that try from very close range when Atkin jumped out at dummy half. But then again, Luke Yates bagged a hat-trick from doing literally the same thing.
Exactly.
But you could see the difference Theo Farge made. Because he's
bloody
been
oath.
in and out of that side as well. It's been mainly Will Price and Ollie Russell is probably the more consistent features in the Huddersfield spine. Outside of Lollahir and Nathan Peets. You throw Jake Connor and Theo Farge into the mix, you would think this Giants side would be in a much healthier position.
What showed what they could do with those players on the field against Salford. Whether I can back it up against Castleford, well, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, the Tigers, they didn't do themselves any favours either. They, along with Wakefield, had another woeful performance. This time, of course, going down to Hull FC, 32 points to 8.
Yep. Tigers' terrible season continues. 2 tries and that's it.
It's just absolutely diabolical. They hold in there for 10 minutes and then the floodgates open. Josh Griffin, just inside 10 minutes. Then Adam Swift scores 14 minutes later. Oh, well, Adam Swift, sorry. 2 tries in 6 minutes, so it's already...
And he got a hat-trick overall, did he not?
I'm just double-checking that now because, of course, nowhere has the centralised highlights for all the cup ties as for this. But eventually, yes, he did bag a hat-trick just under 61 minutes.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Until those in, 6 minutes?
Yep, 2 tries in 6 minutes. Hull were leading 22-4 at the break, or 22-6. I don't know. It's a little bit confusing.
22-4 because there was only... I don't think there was any conversions made from...
Well, according to this, it says Paul McShane nailed the conversion.
Oh, well, how awesome.
And
anyway.
Jacob Hookham nailed the conversion for the final try Castlewood scored. But considering the fact, you look at this Castlewood side that they had run out for Andy last, a spine of Jack Broadbent, Joe Westerman, Paul McShane, George Lawler, again running with the same experiment Radford had at various ages. No Gareth Woodham, no Jacob Miller, no Niall Evalds. Of course, lacking Greg Eden, they've had to rely on a couple of extended squad members coming in as well. But it just turned into another damn disaster.
Certainly did, and I don't know where to go with Castleford. Like, seriously, you can't... Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, Hull FC you've got more confidence in now. I mean,
Surprisingly, yes.
The two imports of Tex Hoy and Jake Clifford are coming back round again. Of course, Liam Sutcliffe was always a good signing.
Well, Barron Tex Hoy isn't injured because he's been injured a couple of times this year already.
And now Jake Truman's getting some runs on the board for the black and white. And the forward pack you would probably kill for. Brad Fash, Chris Sarte, Josh Griffin, Joe Cater. And even with the under-strength bench with two rookies like Gardner and Stavely on there, Hull still managed to run riot.
Yeah. I mean, if you said this game, earlier in the season, then yeah, you would have said maybe Castleford.
No, I still would have said Hull, easily.
But even when Hull weren't playing out their best this season?
Hull managed to get 2 wins before a 7-game losing run, and that was it.
Right.
They've been on an upwards trajectory ever since.
Well, even in the midst of their 7-game losing run, though, then Castleford, Hull's still the one. Anyway, but yeah.
Huddersfield fell agonisingly short in probably a game to remember at Salford Stadium, going down by 2, having let the Red Devils run right, particularly down their right edge attack with Brodie Croft, Callum Watkins, Dion Cross doing a whole lot of damage.
Yeah.
They really need to tighten their defence up on that side in particular. But given that Castleford, and we are going to refresh the casualty ward because it's always interesting to see what...
Well, I don't think Huddersfield really need to tighten the defence up because they won't be doing much defending. They'll be doing heaps more attacking.
Well, in the case of the Giants, there'll be no more Owen Trout for the rest of the year after he suffered a season-ending injury. Jermaine McGilvery suffered a bicep injury, so now he's undergoing scans. Or, of course, Theo Farge, Joe Greenwood returned from injury. Chris McQueen, he wasn't there in the lineup, so he might get a recall for this tie as well, or this league match. But personal matters, who knows? As for Andy Last, Niall Evalds did his pec. So, don't know how long he's going to be out for, but it will end up in surgery. Gareth Widdop jarred his ankle. No Jacob Miller after he failed the HIA.
That's 11 days.
If he passes the
12 days.
If he passes the protocols, he could play.
Could. Yeah, right.
But I don't think it'll save them. I think the Giants run away 7-12 again and over the Tigers at this fixture.
Yeah. Or I'm going to say 13-20. Huddersfield just been horrendous this year.
Now, the main event at Headingley, the Leeds Rhinos facing off against the reigning champion St Helens.
Grand final rematch again.
We know how Leeds did, blowing a 14-0 lead against the Warriors, whilst the Saints breezed past the Halifax Panthers 26 points to 6. Joey Lussick bagging a double in the win out at the Shea.
Yeah, well, Halifax would know. The try that they scored with 3 minutes to go was only a consolation try, but St Helens never looked like they're going to lose it, although they will be missing one Morgan Knowles.
Yes, but Morgan Knowles making his return after a 5-week suspension on Good Friday.
Only to get suspended again.
Yes, getting red-carded in the 79th minute against Halifax, which has resulted in a 2-match ban, in addition to losing Conrad Hurrell, all due to a slight disc bulge in his neck.
Oh, that's no good.
So, of course, that's why we see Ben Davis and T. Ritson in the back line at the moment, with Mark Percival also unavailable, and Jonathan Benison continuously struggling to find his way into the side at various stages.
Yes.
But there is some good news, who's for the Saints. Ignatius Parsi is set to return from a knee injury. While Sione Matautier also returned in the cup tie, having played his first game since that horrendous knockout he suffered in defeat to Wigan on Good Friday.
Yeah, that was horrendous, but good to see him back and playing.
Yes, good news that he came back. Even though there was a huge quality disparity, Saints were just clinical as we know they can be. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's depending what Rhino side we get though. Are they going to be competitive or are they going to not be so competitive?
Well, they're going to have to continue with no Blake Austin in the halves. Apparently, he suffered a calf injury and he's going to be out for at least up to a month. They will get Ash Hanley back, though. He apparently missed the clash against Leeds due to illness, so you'll take his place back on the wing, and the back line will probably go for another reshuffle, all between Newman and McDonald at that. While they're saying James Bentley could also return after he suffered a HIA the previous week at Wigan.
Well, there you go. Who knows?
So there's a couple of things there. Of course, England international Tom Holroyd just barnstorming once again.
Bloody oath he is. He's getting better and better each game he plays as well, which is good to see.
And Caesar, a couple of good touches. I mean, he was the one who put Harry Newman away for that spectacular juggle try.
Yeah, the juggle try of the year, I reckon.
But it was also Leeds' right side defensively that was let down at the back end. So it's going to be interesting to see whether McDonald and Donaldson, whoever was starting on the edge, will retain their spot if Bentley earns the recall.
Yeah. See what happens. I personally think Bentley will get a recall. But to who to make way, I'm not 100% sure.
I'm going to back the reigning champions in here. I think Leeds will be smiting after that loss, having put Wigan under the pump early, and then to let that go with 3 straight tries, all started by Bevan French. For me, St Helens win 7-12 and press their claim by some miracle, still within in striking distance of returning to the top 6 due to their superior for and against.
Well, it is St Helens, so you can't really write off the Saints. But yeah, I'll say St Helens 7-12. Is it going to be a high-scoring game? Well, it's depending what Rhino side we get because they've been inconsistent of how competitive they have been this season.
Moving on, we have the Leopards back at home again to the Warrington Wolves. Of course, no immediate concerns for Adrian Lamb's side, whilst for Warrington, a little bit of a concern for Josh Fewless after he picked up a knock in the win, but nothing serious, as Darryl Powell has mentioned, having spoken post-match at saying. Apart from that, we look in good shape, and I haven't spoken in detail to our physio, but he isn't flagging anything up at this stage. And Connor Wrench is the other thing as well, having returned from his ACL injury in the reserves.
Well, that's good to see. So he's making his back way, probably a few games in the reserves, then he might be forcing his way into the regular side.
No, I don't think he will. The way Warrington's back
Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, you look at how Warrington's backline is set at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's
You've
very,
got the speed of Duffy and Fewless with the finishing of Matty Ashton. Peter Mataldi is a tackle-busting extraordinaire, it seems, and Stefan Ratchford's the steady hand. George Williams is the running maestro with Josh Drinkwater, the steady hand of experience.
Yeah. But
more experience.
But if he's back from his ACL, if someone does go down, well, he's there ready to rock and roll.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. If any of the centres go down...
Or if they decide to rest them later in the season, which is a possibility
well, the second half is almost underway, and we'll see how far both Warrington and Lee will go in the quarterfinals race for the Cup appearance at Wembley. No doubt there'll definitely be some interesting foresight to have about that. But given the fact that Warrington were able to dig their way out of trouble when Catalan were coming knocking, and the size of the forward pack as well, I mean, Philbin, Dudson, Maguire, Cassiano, it is a tremendous forward pack that has allowed George Williams to run off the back.
Yeah.
I can't go past Warrington to score 2 consecutive wins over the Leopards. 7-12, it will be tight, but I think Lee will get physically outmuscled here.
Well, I think Warrington win 13-20. With the forward pack of what Warrington have, and it's just going to be too big for the Leopards' defence to stop them. But again, Lee have been playing pretty good this season. Like I said, they've won 7 games this year, so that's more than what I expected them to. I think a lot of people expected them to do. But yeah, Warrington 13-20.
And finally, to wrap up round 13 before the Magic weekend, the Salford Red Devils at home again, this time to Hull FC. Well, if there was ever a get square moment, what could Tony Smith better dream up than the second clash against Salford and looking to atone for their round 4 defeat?
Yeah, this is actually going to be quite a good matchup. I mean, how much is that 42 points, a 40 win taken out of Salford? I don't know.
Well, what we do know is that Andy Ackers, speaking of Salford, in an injury update regarding Paul Rowley, he could make his return for the Red Devils against Hull FC after he failed a HIA 2 weeks prior, provided he can pass the concussion protocols.
Right.
So that would be a big boost if Andy Ackers would come back.
Bloody oath it would be. Much needed return for Salford. But they haven't been playing too badly as of late. I mean, Croft is starting to find his form again this season. Sneed after scoring.
Well, Brodie Croft had a pretty good showing against Huddersfield in the high-scoring affair. And the combination he struck with Callum Watkins has certainly paid dividends, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, with the start of the year that Salford had, it wasn't looking the best, but they are starting to come on to some sort of form, and the combinations are only getting bigger and stronger, especially that Croft-Watkins one.
On the contrary, since Jake Truman's started playing for Hull FC, they have looked an immensely different side. They have gotten out of that 7-game losing rut of their own accord, and with a little bit of just good run of health, like something Salford don't have. A clean bill of health for key forwards.
Exactly right.
Or key players, I should say, but
yeah,
still.
I knew what you meant, but yeah.
A settled squad. Hoy and Clifford starting to come back round good. Like I said, Liam Sutcliffe, clearly Hull FC's best player going round at the moment. I think this is not going to be like round 4 when Salford were able to score 60 at will.
Yeah, I don't think Salford will get 60 this time around because Hull FC are looking much better than what they did back in round 4.
To think only 2 months ago they were close to the bottom of the table, now sitting 5 and 7 on a 3-game winning run.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
I mean, don't get me wrong, the defence is still completely atrocious, having conceded 328 points in a single year. But at the same time, Wakefield is much worse. There's like 3 tries in it between the two sides.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'd say second worst defence, but they are really starting to turn that around very, very quickly.
And whether or not they can keep that going is another story.
I think they can. I think there'll be disappointment, and I think that they want to atone for, or now that they've really gotten the roll on, and I think it will go through the centres, really. I think Truman will look to, how do I best put this, make his mark on this game in particular. Between him and Brodie Croft, the sort of the key men, and I would be putting the microscope under, never mind Clifford versus Sneed, and like with Warrington...
I think I know who's going to win that Clifford-Sneed battle, easy.
And like Warrington, Hull have a very big forward pack that they could easily muscle or Salford over the top over.
That is very true.
So I'm going to go Hull FC in a tight 1-6. Their defence immensely improved in recent weeks.
I'm going to go with the Devils, 7-12. It's not going to be a massive score like what we saw last time around 4, but I think Salford will still do enough for the win over Hull FC for the second time this season.
And the final team going through to the quarter-final stage, the York Knights down in the London Broncos, 36-12. Well, outside a couple of bright sparks for London in the first half, it was one-way traffic in the favour of York from that point onwards.
Yeah, pretty much it was. I mean, it's disappointing, like you said. London, I do like to see them do well, but they just haven't really been going as well. I think you said they're a part-time side now, the London Broncos.
Part-time, mid-tier championship side, and York, so much potential for them. Of course, the big rebrand they did at the start of the year for both their men's and women's sides.
it's disappointing to see how, like, well, what did you say, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, the London Broncos were in the Super League at full-time side and everything, but now they're, like you just said, mid-table, mid-championship and a part-time side. It's just sad to see, though.
I think the one thing that really weighed into York's favour, you look at the side that they actually have on paper. In this side they had that beat London, James Cunningham, handy utility in the past, played for Toulouse. Ronan Michael, the only proper Irish player playing in the entire RFL structures. Then you get former handy forwards like Jordan Thompson, Chris Clarkson, Danny Kermond, and Akuma Tai. Just the weight of those experienced hands, as well as their in that squad, they played a huge factor in this victory. And of course, you look at London's side, even with Alex Walker, Henry Ralalouis, regular for the Fiji side. York just had a better squad assembled overall that carried them to the quarterfinal stage.
Yeah.
I mean, whilst York are no guarantee to advance beyond the quarterfinal stage, the fact...
Well, considering they're playing the Lee Leopards, I mean, it is a... probably not, but they'll try and be competitive.
This is somewhere IMG might want to look at expanding into. Of course, York have been pushing in the championship in recent years to get in a shot at the £1 million game, but have missed out on a couple of times. So,
well, that's their own doing, though.
yeah, but to look to expand outside of Yorkshire, York are putting themselves in the conversation, essentially. And who knows, maybe they might have a shot still at the 1895 Cup, which is sort of like a second-tier equivalent to the Challenge Cup. And, of course, they hosted the Summer Bash not too long ago. So things are looking up for York as it stands, but London, they need money. They honestly need money at this point.
Yeah. But who knows what's going to happen in that quarterfinals? There's some juicy fixtures in the quarterfinals.
We'll cover the quarterfinals fixtures is when we get to it. But finally, interesting news about the Rugby League World Cup. Of course, you probably would have heard from someone else first, but we'll just have our say. Of course, France had to pull out of hosting the Rugby League World Cup because they couldn't guarantee that it wouldn't run at a loss. So it was officially it was a question about money, that they couldn't guarantee the French government they couldn't run a loss.
It's disappointing to see because we really hyped it up, didn't we? Like last year they had two teams in the Super League, Catalans and Toulouse. The year before that, Catalans made the grand final. Then they had the two Super League teams last year. Toulouse absolutely kicking ass in the championship. And the same year, Catalans made the grand final. Unfortunately, Toulouse dropped back to the championship this year. Are playing really well this year. They got the Rugby World Cup in 2024 or 2023. The Rugby World Cup, or was it the Olympics they're holding?
2023 they got the Rugby World Cup.
Yeah,
and then
this year
Paris
they got the World
2024.
Cup. And then the Paris 2024, and then the World Cup the Rugby League World Cup in 2024. So there's supposed to be three big events happening back-to-back years. But one's unfortunately had to pull out, and that's the Rugby League one, which is very unfortunate because they are looking. France is a growing part of the Rugby League, but it just needs. Well, this has not helped that cause, though, unfortunately.
I am not one to dabble in conspiracies around the game, but considering the fact that the government of France has a very non-friendly relationship with rugby league ever since 1934, and what I mean by non-friendly, I mean outright trying to outlaw the game when the Germans invaded. Then, of course, they didn't like rugby league either, so the Germans wanted to crush rugby league completely. And, of course, the persecution of league in France has always been apparent. It's always been a fight for survival to play rugby league in France, whether you're trying to just set a comp up of your own volition with the union establishment, or even in the midst of World War II when the Germans invaded and they didn't want this other form of rugby ruining things for them either. And of course the collaborationist French and unionists, but that's another matter. That's history. But even so, you cannot look at that and say, this is once again the government persecuting French Rugby League.
Well, I mean, come on, it does need government backing though, like to help host it though. It's a big event though.
It is a big event, but I think this is just a symptom of the knock-on effect, probably that's been building for at least 7 years. Think back. Of course, Australia had the rights for the 2017 Rugby League World Cup. They were actually talking in 2021 that the United States was going to host the World Cup. I think that was the case at that. Oh no, 2025 they were going to host the Rugby League World Cup. United States. So in 2018, England and France decided they were going to play a test match, to much controversy because the NRL types of playing this mid-year test match in Denver. Of course, it ended up producing about somewhere between 18,000 and 20,000 in attendance.
Which is a generic weekend NRL crowd anyway.
But at a stadium that's like meant to host up to 60,000.
Yeah, but Americans are big on the NFL, so anything that comes out of it is going.
It was an attempt.
It's
Ryan Carney has weighed in on this debate. Of course, he's the main man for the Sky Sports television coverage in the United Kingdom. But this is what he's had to say on the fact that France lost the rights to the World Cup. There's never been any investigation or any report into this fiasco of giving it to the United States. Then we go on to France, and now we'll just, again, move on. We'll just move on maybe to New Zealand. Maybe Australia will have it. Financially, they're the only two that have the power and resources to put a World Cup on.
At short notice.
No, I just think that's what he's saying overall. Furthermore, he says, there is a bit of an international power struggle. This will not be an opportunity that the Australian Rugby League Commission will miss up on taking and maximising. They want to be seen as the predominant governing body in the World Rugby League, and this plays into their hands. So what Brian Carney's essentially saying, that the RFL, in conjunction with the French Rugby League, can't put on anything in the northern part of the world, can't put a major sporting event like the World Cup on, and this just solidifies Australia's position in the world as the predominant league power. I mean, because, as he said, we're the financially stable ones, we control half of the player base, essentially.
Pretty much.
Whether I agree with that or not, but it's just like, the NRL's interests often trump the international interests. And I mean, many people will probably say, oh, but they have to, because that's where all the money is. If the NRL's interest didn't come first, there is no international rugby league. And I mean, this does stem from the fact that the NRL basically stabbed the entire 2021 World Cup plans in the back and forced them to go back a year. So those on the other side of the world are basically saying, why should the Australians have all the power when trying to put on an international tournament? Because when was the last time Australia volunteered to take a test match somewhere else outside league territory? When was the last time they decided, you know what, why don't we have the Lions or Great Britain come out again and we host a tour rather than we go over there and tour, have an Ashes series here?
Yeah, no, I can't remember any time that's happened at all.
Because the only thing that really makes money, apart from the NRL itself, is in fact state of origin. That's just like, I honestly think half the time they talk about developing international rugby league for the Pacific Islands, but when it comes to the Kangaroos, it's just sort of like, no, state of origin, that's it.
Exactly.
See you later.
Exactly. Which is where it's wrong.
Even though we are trying to get two Tri-Nations series over the line, if and when I hear an official announcement that the Kangaroos are going to play off against the Kiwis and Samoa in one pool of a Tri-Nations tournament A, then I'll believe it. Until then, I will remain heavily skeptical of this matter. But this is a shit show, essentially. This collapsing of France.
It's disappointing. It's very disappointing to see, though, because, like I said, France, they're trying to push the rugby league game into that market, but it just hasn't worked out. And on the back of the success that Catalans have been in, you think, oh, this is going to work out quite well, but it also has not. So Where is it going to be played? I honestly don't know.
Well-
I would like to see it come in Australia again after hosting it in 2017 because obviously, as you said, England can't because they hosted it last time out last year. But you said 2 other interesting countries or nations. The
Well-
UAE, Qatar, or South Africa.
Well,
Just set off there.
that's the thing. More than likely, because as Brian Carney's been saying, it's just rugby league. Bottom line, in the northern part of the world, it is just not popular enough to attract major commercial sponsorship or commitment from governments. That's unfortunately the bare bones truth. Down here, you could get a government commitment for literally anything. Need a
Exactly.
new stadium built? Boom, we'll throw in $2 billion worth of money to do it.
AFL's Tasmanian Stadium, perfect.
But that deal, that's a bad deal. Let's not talk about that deal,
Yeah,
'cause
no,
that's a bad
But
deal
I'm just
in
saying, there's
itself.
government backing there as well.
Yeah, but that's the point. Want a new stadium built? Boom, go right ahead. You want to bring a new team in and we'll subsidize part of it? Okay. Important part of a geopolitical struggle that we want to ensure that we're not going to get dominated over? All right, we'll throw our money in behind that too. But you see, we can do that. You want to take State of Origin to Perth or Adelaide? They'll throw money into it.
Bloody hell.
You want to turn the grand final into a Super Bowl style event that can go across the country? Oh, it would make for actually a good sports holiday, even though
bloody hell, it would be.
I wouldn't agree with it.
Yeah.
They'll do it. Government, all the state governments in this country, and it will be the same story in New Zealand and in the places where league is strong. They will throw money, and there will be commercial interest to do such things,
Yeah.
like the World Cup, like an Ashes series. Hopefully, and this is why, again, the IMG reforms are so important for Britain and France. These reforms help grow the game's financial future, to stabilize it. And that's what
If
I
that
hope.
doesn't happen, well, then it will be collapsing even further over in the northern part of the world, like in England, which I don't think will happen. That's why they're bringing this IMG thing in to help prevent that from happening.
It's to grow the market rugby league can go. I mean, they're not going to take on the Premier League head on because that's like a multi-billion-pound sports industry.
Yeah.
But if they can wrestle away some union influence in the south, get London involved, just take the game outside the northern M62 corridor and actually help France, maybe by actually giving them a vote in the RFL structures, because Catalan and Toulouse certainly didn't vote on the reforms because, they weren't English.
Exactly.
Then the game in Britain and France and Northern Hemisphere, generally speaking, could be in a much healthier position. And that's all I'm going to say on that matter for now.
Yeah.
Because on that note, it is full time here from us. If you like this part or the NRL debrief that followed up from the day before, make sure you leave this one a like, hit that subscribe button and click the bell to allow for notifications so you never miss a week of rugby league action. Don't forget to give us a follow on our social media pages. All leaderboards for standout players and tips go up there on Facebook, and on Instagram is at Sideline Chat, and on Twitter at Sideline Chat RL, hashtag SideChatYT. Hope you enjoy all the league action coming your way, and we will talk more of the State of Origin build-up next week. Along with Mark Henry, I'm Connor Marcellus, and you have been listening to the Sideline Chat podcast. We'll see you next week.
Catch you later.